Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we're on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
Hiring salespeople based on a resume or a great interview is like drafting players based on their Instagram highlights. They look amazing in the clips. That's until the real game starts.
Exactly. Every CEO's been there. The interviews go great. You think you're bringing a top performer onto your team, but once they hit the field, they can't close, won't prospect, and blame the leads.
That's exactly why we recommend Sales Index Unlimited Candidate Assessments. It's your sales recruiting engine that screens every candidate against 21 proven sales competencies, benchmarked against 2.5 million sales professionals worldwide. That is more than a personality profile. You'll know with confidence who can sell and who will actually do the work.
Because the best teams don't just fill positions, they build a bench. They're always scouting for great players who can perform under pressure.
For just $2.99 a month, you can build your own bench of ready-to-sell talent, coachable, driven, and proven before they ever get the jersey.
So stop guessing, start scouting like a pro.
Go to unlimited.salesindex.ai. That's unlimited.salesindex.ai and start building your next sales all-star team today. Hello and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
It's another great day here at Selling from the Heart. We're in for a treat, Darrell. I am fired up for this conversation, let me tell you.
We are going to talk to our friend, Margie Newman Tsay, about communication and maybe even crisis communication. I know we never encounter crises as sales professionals or sales leaders. So, but if you might think that you might run into one, I think you're going to love this episode. Hey, thanks for joining us today. If you're new, we've got a lot of folks joining us here at the beginning of the new year. We're so excited about all the things that are going on out there. We would love to connect with you personally, and we love this network, this group, this community of sales professionals that say, yeah, I'm all in on Selling from the Heart. We love this community all over the world.
Well, speaking of someone who's near and dear to the Selling from the Heart community, and you know this person, Darrell, I'm going to give a shout out to Colleen Stanley. And there's a reason why. She's been a two-time podcast guest, but she just came out with one of her latest books, Be the Mentor Who Mattered. It's a great book. I encourage everyone, be a mentor. Be a mentor to somebody, help them along the way. Colleen Stanley, we appreciate you.
Yes, cheering you on. Well, in sales, trust is everything. And today's guest is an expert in helping leaders and organizations build it, protect it, and communicate it with clarity and heart. Margie Newman Tsay is the founder of Intesa Communications Group, a strategic communications firm that specializes in reputation management, executive coaching, and crisis response. With a rich background in media relations, advocacy, and leadership, Margie helps high-profile professionals and organizations craft messages that connect, inspire confidence, and build lasting credibility. She reminds us that how we communicate, especially when the pressure is on, defines not only our reputation, but also our relationships. So whether you're leading a sales team, managing clients, or building your personal brand, her insights show that trust and authenticity aren't just good ethics, they're great business. And she's here with us today. Margie, welcome to Selling from the Heart. We're so glad you're here.
So good to be with y'all. First, we got a selfie, so y'all smile.
Oh, there we go. It's already going to be a good time, Margie.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I love that bio for me. Who wrote that?
It's amazing. You're incredible, Margie. And we're so excited. And we can't wait to hear your answer to the question that every guest on Selling from the Heart answers. And that is, what does Selling from the Heart mean to you?
Selling from the heart to me means remembering that it's not about you. It's about the customer. It's make the customer the hero. They've got something they need to achieve a goal, something they want for themselves personally or professionally, and something you're offering better meet that need. So listen, figure out how to make them the hero in the transaction or in the strategy or in the planning, and the rest kind of comes to fruition. But you have to make that part happen, right? You got to make them the hero, make time to listen to get to know what they need, and then you try to sell them something that will get them there.
Oh, this is so good. And something tells me that if one struggles with this, something happens to their reputation, Margie.
Yeah. Reputation. So I'm in reputation management, and the problem with reputation is people think it's a one-time thing. Something bad happened, and now I need to go fix it. And I literally, just before I got on the phone with you all, we're talking to a client, and this was the conversation we were having, that anything, trust building, authenticity, all the things you all talk about all the time, is how you show up every day. Not on the day you just want to make a sale, not on the day that something goes wrong. Every single day. How do you show up? And that is how you build and enhance a reputation. And if you're making it about the other person and what that other person needs and how you might be able to help or not, maybe what you're selling isn't the best fit. Understanding that is what enhances the reputation. It is what builds trust. And it is ultimately why people would choose you and your product to invest in.
Mm-hmm. No question. And, when you think about the profession of sales, sales is communication. I mean, at its heart, sales professionals communicate. We're the face of the company in so many different ways. The company may have a marketing department, may have a PR department that communicates one to many, but we're the face-to-face, one-to-one communication thing. And I don't think we talk about communication enough in the world of sales. So I'm curious, as we start this conversation, what would you say to all the thousands of sales professionals listening in about communication and why this is such an important word for us to be thinking about?
It is. I'm thinking about several people in my life. My husband, for example, is in charge of a very large tech customer for his company. And he's great at what he does for two reasons that comes to mind. And for this particular audience, one, he knows surprises are for birthdays, right? So when you think about communication, making sure people aren't like, what are we talking about here? People aren't walking into meetings or going on calls without understanding who's the lead. What do they know? Are we communicating? Surprises are for birthdays. Got to communicate in 4 different ways, right? To make sure people get it. And the other one about communication is knowing your stuff. Are you deeply knowledgeable about this thing you're trying to achieve, sell, this relationship you're trying to build? The deep knowledge enables you to communicate in a way that is the truth about your product or yourself, if what you're trying to sell is yourself, and also meets the need of the customer. And so communication to me in sales is everything. Communicating the relationship, communicating what it would take to get someone there, no surprises in this relationship. Those are all communications things. And the sales people in my life and my own life, and the people who are in my life, those are kind of the things most of that boils down to me.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Margie, from your experience, where does sales, and again, sales centric just for a moment, but this will all play out, is where do they struggle? Where do salespeople struggle with becoming effective communicators? Because if you all want to build trust, you have to be an effective communicator. But where's the breakdown?
They think I've said it once, I don't need to say it again. It's ego, right? And I don't mean ego like they over there have ego. All of us have that piece of ourselves that is ego, right? And it's, well, I have said a thing and that's all I should need to say it. Or don't they trust me? Shouldn't they just trust me? I don't need to say it. There's all these things that come into play on ego around communication. What are people going to think of me? What are people going to think if I repeat myself? I'm at a level where I shouldn't have to repeat myself. All these things come into play for all of us as humans. And a lot of times things are just in our brain. We feel like we've said it once, we don't need to say it again. And so we stop communicating. When we stop being the people who give context, because leadership is context. So when we stop communicating and giving that context, then trust erodes, right? What are they keeping from me? What do they know that they're not sharing? And it may have nothing to do with you, right? It may just be that I feel like I've said it. Well, anybody in the marketing department will tell you, you got to say it probably 10, 11 times, right? Before the human brain will really retain it. And I do see leaders we work with, as the great bio said at the top of the pod, we work with really high profile leaders of large companies, universities, theme parks, you name it, right? And a lot of times this will trip them up. I've said it. I shouldn't have to do it again. Don't people just know me? We've all got lots of stuff going on in our lives, right? We can't just assume. And when we start assuming everyone else's intentions, what they know, what they don't, that's where communication breaks down. And then that's where trust breaks down.
Oh, so powerful. And I just think about the early stages of the sales process, and it's similar to marketing. It's rinse and repeat. But I think as sales professionals, we communicate in whatever ways, over the phone, over email, and we go, okay, well, they're not interested. And, and study after study after study shows that, we give up way too early. Right. And I think, some of that's a persistence problem, but maybe we need to reframe that as it's just a communication issue. It's not, yes, you got to be persistent, but let's be persistent in communicating and understand that it takes a minute, especially in today's distracted world, for someone to actually even get what you're saying.
Yeah. And it may just not be the right time. Again, we're all dealing with what we're dealing with. And that is one of the power tools that the internet can be, if used correctly. That LinkedIn, for example, in my world, a lot of people remember to call Intesa. Oh, right. Intesa does this thing. Because I will randomly post a speaking engagement I had, or I will post some commentary on an engagement someone else had. And all of a sudden the algorithm goes, oh, here's Margie. She does stuff. And they go, oh, I should call Margie. And it doesn't matter that they get our newsletter and that every now and then I'll write them a handwritten note or whatever I'm doing. For some reason, the algorithm showed them me doing something different, and they were at a place in their life where it made sense. So the persistency of sometimes it's just being, hey, I'm here, hey, I'm over here doing cool stuff. That's sales. You promoting your expertise, your thought leadership. What am I going to do when I get off here on this podcast? I'm going to put on LinkedIn and Instagram, hey, look at me with Larry and Darrell on this podcast. Not because I think that is going to literally sell public relations, but because it just reminds people I'm here and that I have an expertise, and they might think to call me. And I think that is all a part of the sales process. It's not a direct, hey, Darrell, do you want to buy this thing? But it is sales in that it keeps me in the environment. It keeps me in your head. It keeps me memorable to when the time is right, you'll go, oh yeah, I should talk to Margie. All of that is effort. So if you're lazy, that will not be a strategy you enjoy. But if not, that's okay. I can do that today.
Yeah.
I can post about the podcast. I can say I went to this Rotary lunch or this Kiwanis lunch. All of that is sales because it's keeping you memorable.
So, I'm thinking about all the multi-generations or the multi-age groups that are in sales, right? From early 20s to, past Darrell's age, which is, past 60s. But that was my dig. It was my first time digging Darrell, because usually he's digging me.
I liked it.
But where I want to go with this is, do you see that some people are more effective communicators than others when it comes to male, female, age? Walk us through this, because I think the reason why I'm bringing this up, I think there's a play on this. I think there's a play on age groups and being effective communicators versus those who aren't and who need to practice it.
I would say the people I find that are best at this don't only associate with their age cohort or their gender cohort or even their line of sales cohort, right? We don't do widgets. Our stuff is all professional services. But you better believe when I'm listening to my friends who are out there selling widgets, then I'm like, well, tell me more. And they're all different ages. Some of them are like, oh, you should try LinkedIn for this thing. And some of them are going, oh, no, I just do handwritten notes. I sit there and I write 10 a week. Get out there and figure out what other people are doing outside your industry, outside your gender, outside your demographic, all of that, because everything is changing so much. My friends who are older, who are trying to sell professional services, or in some cases, widgets, they have not diversified their friend group or their sphere of influence group. And as people are retiring, all those inside leads are leaving. They don't have any younger ones. Or they built their company of just people who are much more experienced. Again, as that population ages, they're not the hiring managers, the decision makers. So to me, having that wide array, and then everyone in that from age 20 to age 75, what do we have to learn from each other? Because I've been doing this for a long time. I learn something new every day from the people sitting out there because they're just in a different world than I am. So I actually find it is better if you can do that. I also find people, leaders, salespeople who are willing to be vulnerable and show that vulnerability. You all talk about authenticity a lot. I'm sure vulnerabilities come in there too, but, not being afraid to start that conversation with, how are the kids? Oh my goodness, let's talk about that football game on Saturday. Some people are so in there and they're so driven by the numbers, they don't make time to just build rapport anymore. And then some people build so much rapport that they never got around to asking for the gig, So it's got to be that balance. And to me, if you surround yourself with all different kinds of folks in and outside of sales and how they communicate and what successes they see, those are all tools in your toolbox. I don't think that just women are inherently better or men are inherently better. I think the people who can take all the successes of everybody, smush them together, those are the people who end up being the most powerful salespeople, communicators, leaders, because they're constantly picking up tools and adding them to the toolbox and constantly learning.
So powerful. I want to shift our conversation to thinking about crisis. So one of the reasons people call you is when there's a crisis.
Speaking of sales.
Yes. Well, that's the life of a sales professional is constant crisis. Let's be like, there is always going to be something going on. A deal goes sideways, or a customer has a problem, or just all of these different things happening. And salespeople usually are in that role between a company and the client. And so they end up being involved as a buffer in a lot of crisis situations. So what can we learn from the discipline of crisis communication?
Brevity. It's all about brevity in that crisis. And again, I watch it with so many people in my life. They'll be writing this 1,000-word email about this crisis. No one's going to read all that. Or, they want to do a, 28 slide PowerPoint. No one's paying attention. Their brains are in the crisis. There's that idea that when people call us for crisis, ego is big at play, right? Again, there's always, well, who's to blame for this? Same thing with a sales crisis, right? Whose fault is it? How can we make sure they're held accountable? All these things. That's not going to solve a crisis. That doesn't help you build trust and confidence in a crisis, right? So what does is roles and goals. Like, what is our purpose in this crisis? What's on the other side? It's not make it go away. That's not a goal. How do we get on the other side of it? How can we succinctly identify what's going on and then what everyone's role is in this? The other day, I rolled up on a pretty bad car crash. And everyone is beautiful humanity, right? Everyone gets out to help. Literally, everyone stopped to help. I get chills thinking about it. But there was so much to do that everyone was just standing there. So I said, you, Ponytail, you're calling 911. You're going to that truck. You're going to the Tesla. I gave everybody jobs because in a crisis, our brains, and not so much ego in the traffic accident, but our brains in a crisis are ego and overwhelm. We immediately need to know what is going on. How do we solve for it? And what's my job? to give me something to do other than panic.
Mm.
And then we also need to keep the circle small. There's no need to escalate this to 47 people and the CEO and the Pope. Like, let's figure out what's going on. And then as we need to, make the circle bigger. And those are really the things we do in a crisis. We reduce oxygen to the flame. Don't call your boss and panic your boss about this crisis until you know, what are we talking about? And what are we going to do? Even if it's just validating something happened and the very quick meeting we're about to have to figure it out. But you don't just call and say, crisis, boss. That doesn't build trust and confidence, right? We got to make sure that we are giving people roles and goals in a crisis so that we can build trust and confidence as we journey through it. Because as soon as one sales crisis ends, the next one pops up. The line doesn't work anymore. Something happened at the factory. The whole thing is shut down. Suddenly there's an upside and we've got way more business than we thought we'd ever have. We don't know what to do with it, right? All those are crises-y. So that we don't panic, brevity, roles, and goals are the things that any leader in any sort of crisis really should be thinking about.
I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, and I'm a high clarity guy. And somehow I think clarity plays a really important role somewhere in this.
Yep. Yeah, because we always say in the South, right? What's the closest gator to your boat? When you have a crisis, right? Within the boat, you can use it. It's okay. When you have a crisis in your boat, right? You're going to identify this gator, right? This one that could come in and sink the whole boat. But you're going to have board members and your boss and your coworker and your spouse and your kid and the soccer coach that are going to identify all these other problems. And that's going to distract you. And often they do it because they care. That doesn't help you in the crisis. Clarity helps you in the crisis, right? What is the biggest issue here? Who's the team we put together? How are we going to solve for that? And who needs to know right now? Who needs to know right now? That's important. But it's not, let's send a press release. Let's do all these things. Let's communicate with the whole world when we haven't even told our staff, right? So clarity, you're right, Larry, is 100% key. But everyone's going to come to you with what they think your clarity is. And so you really have to be able to say, no, this is the closest gator to our boat. These others can swim out there for a little bit. But this is the one we're solving for right now. And you take them one gator at a time.
So having this moment, listening to this.
It works, doesn't
it? Great analogy. Thinking of all my Cajun friends. Yeah, here's my little existential moment inside this, Margie. I've been in sales for over 3 decades, and I don't think I've ever been to training or had even a conversation about crisis communication yet. And it wasn't in the brochure when I signed up, by the way, that on a weekly, possibly daily basis, you will be dealing with angry clients and frustrated people and back orders and, crisis communication all over the place. But the reality of the sales role, and this is like I'm just having this moment where I'm going, this is a massive oversight in the sales world. Companies have salespeople as their voice and face to key customers. And yet we have never been trained we had to just kind of learn it as we go. And I don't know, maybe we're good at it, maybe we're not. But my realization here today is I got a lot to learn. I think we all have a lot to learn in this area.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like when people become veterinarians or dentists and they don't get trained on how to run their own business. But that's what they're going to do. Exactly. But they didn't get that training. Yes, you are exactly right. And I didn't realize it either right until I had very close people in my life, my husband and others, who they do crisis work all the time. But to your point, no one really calls it that. And no one trains them. And you better hope if someone does train you on it, they're training you the right way. If they're training you to escalate everything and panic over everything, and you're getting training, but it's wrong, So it's just, how do we help people? I think the biggest, that's why I say, like Larry said, clarity. For me, it's brevity. It's what is the goal? What are our roles? We're going to take it a step at a time. especially if you're at a place where you're interfacing with a customer where everything's very complicated, right? My world in professional services it's not complicated. We don't have machines or tariffs or it's our brains. We can do whatever we want, But for those of you who have very complicated sales pipelines or ecosystems, you run into a lot of crises. And the main thing I would say is don't ever forget everyone is a human first. Everyone is a human first. So they're going to go straight to fear and ego under pressure. We all do, every single human. So the best way to think about crisis comms from a sales or a leadership role is just, can I take a breath and realize this is a human that's probably not at their best? This is a customer who's mad, right? Very upset. They're not at their best because they're panicking. And now I'm not at my best because I'm panicking. Can I take a breath and go, okay, if I make the customer the hero, what do they need to hear in this moment? That is authentic to me and true for what we can offer. But maybe what they need to hear is not what everyone else is telling you they need to hear. Maybe they just need you to listen. Maybe they just need to yell at you for 30 minutes. And that would be enough to feel heard. Humans first is the first thing in crisis, right? Ego and fear don't bring out the best in any person. And that is what you're dealing with in a crisis of sales or reputation or anything else. And taking a minute to realize that, it is something I wish people would teach. I think it is also why you see more senior sales leaders being the voice of reason. It's probably just because they've seen so much stuff that they don't panic. But that takes a whole lot of time, right? It'd be great if we could teach people early on. This is the human emotion that comes into sales. Like no one talks about that. I mean, the sale part, but not the running the business part.
Hey, you know what I'm just thinking as we wrap on this? This is a great conversation. Is how many countless meetings could be squashed if we're all learned how to be effective communicators and better communicate in a crisis? How many meetings could just a fire extinguisher be put on all of this?
Yeah, reduce oxygen to the flame. I mean, that's the goal, and that's why if I get wind that something in my world, in a 10-person communication shop is, hey, I see some stuff or I'm hearing some stuff, I just pick up the phone. Hey, do you have 5 minutes? I really just want to run something by you. I'm picking up on a vibe. I saw some email traffic. I don't jump in and copy somebody and I'm going to go human to human. I'm going to pick up the phone and be a communicator and help just diminish some of that. There are time and place for email chains and escalations, and I just find a lot of that can be avoided, to your point, if we just talk to each other, if we just communicate like humans instead of like robots.
What a phenomenal perspective. I don't think our audience is going to forget this one. So, in fact, we got to be talking about this more. We need to communicate. So, Margie, I know our listeners are thinking to themselves, how in the world do I get more Margie Newman Tsay in my life?
I'm all over the internet, friends. There's
She's a communicator.
Intesacom.com, because Intesa is a bank in Italy and I couldn't take Intesa.com. So it's Intesacom.com. Instagram, LinkedIn, we're there. I do a lot of podcasts on crisis communications. So on my LinkedIn, you can see several links to other podcasts where I'm specifically just talking about leadership and crisis comms.
Oh, beautiful. So Margie, thank you so much for sharing your time, your expertise, and your heart with us today. This has been amazing.
It's been really, really fun. And everyone can do this. I want to just say no one is born a great communicator. This is a learned skill. You can start today being a great communicator. Yes, you can.
Awesome.
Good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Love it. Thank you. Like Larry, what percentage of your sales career had crisis involved in it? I mean, I'm just having flashbacks to so many moments, and I go, I wish I'd even put some thought to how to manage crisis, let alone get some training. Seriously, like what an oversight.
Well, because I'm sitting here going back to, when I started my career, and I'm like going, whenever there was a crisis, guess what I did? I avoided it. I funneled it off on my sales manager. I go, that's what you're here for, right? I'm bailing out of this boat.
You put a new definition to brevity. You just don't even talk about it. But seriously,
I think it still happens right now.
It does all the time. And so I want to really encourage all of us, go to Margie's LinkedIn profile, let's get some education on this, because this is something that could really, really help. And I love it. One of the great things about the Selling from the Heart podcast is we are committed to bringing you voices and topics and things that, maybe you don't normally hear on a sales podcast. And I think today's a great example, and I'm certainly grateful for the perspective that Margie has brought us today.
And we're deeply committed to this, as Darrell said. It's why we're building this movement we call Selling from the Heart. It's just to raise the profession that we all love, that being sales.
Yeah. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everybody who's liking or sharing this podcast, leaving reviews. It's helping us grow this movement of authenticity and trust in the sales profession we all love. Stay tuned. Until next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, deal with the alligator that's closest to your boat, and most of all,
sell from the heart.